Test, test.
Might have to. Oops, I gotta mute myself.
How'd you get on? Go.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Moore,
Good afternoon.
committee members.
We're not getting your audio. Chair Moore, we're not picking up your audio.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I've been talking that whole time.
And the only thing we could hear was, Art and his whistling.
Oh, and I was telling Art
I am not whistling.
I was telling Art that we could hear him, but no one could hear me. Okay, sorry about that. All right, do we have everybody, Joan? Looks like everyone's in here.
Yes, we have a quorum. I'm not sure everybody's on just yet, but you may start whenever you.
Okay. I would now like to call to order the Board Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order at 2 p.m. Thank you for joining the Board Budget and Finance Committee meeting today, Wednesday, May 4th, 2022. Before we begin with today's business, please ensure that you are in a quiet environment with no background noise, and please mute your device until called upon by the chair or the clerk to speak. Will the clerk please read this special notice?
On September 16, 2021, Governor Newsom signed Assembly Bill number 361 that amends and extends certain Brown Act requirements pertaining to telephonic conferencing of local government meetings through January 1, 2024. As such, RTA has opted to conduct the May 4, 2022 committee meeting via teleconference. Participants can participate via teleconference in each participant's own office home area, which will not be made physically accessible to the public.
Thank you. For today's meeting, we will take roll call. Will the clerk please take roll call?
City of Wildemar.
Here.
City of Beaumont.
Here.
City of Calamasa. City of Canyon Lake.
Canyon Lake is here.
City of Hemet.
Here?
City of Lake Elsinore.
Here.
City of Norco.
Here.
City of Temecula.
Here.
County of Riverside District 5.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum. Members, please mute your devices.
Thank you. Will the clerk please take attendance of RTA staff?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Kristen Warsinski. Here. Charlie Ramirez.
Here.
Tom Franklin.
Here.
Laura Camacho. Ehab Azab.
Here.
Rick Kazarowski.
Here.
Jim Neepkins.
Here.
Stephanie Searles.
Here.
Robert Fernandez.
Here.
Albert Jimenez.
Here.
Jennifer Nguyen.
Here.
Brad Weaver.
Here.
Yesenia Felix. Here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jim. Next is item 3, public comments and non-agenda items. Will the clerk please read the directions for public comments?
Members of the public may address the board regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. However, no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to matters not listed on the agenda. Members of the public may comment on any matter listed on the agenda at the time that the board considers that matter. Each person's presentation is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Has the clerk received any requests in writing?
No, Chair, I have not.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to make comments on items not listed on the agenda? Hearing none, the public comment portion for items not listed on the agenda is now closed. Next is item 4, approval of minutes of the April 6, 2022 Budget and Finance Committee. Does any board member have any comments or corrections? Do I have a motion to approve?
Norco moves to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Norco and a second from Art. Will the clerk please take roll call vote?
City of Wildemar.
Yes.
City of Beaumont.
Aye.
City of Calamasa. City of Canyon Lake.
Aye.
City of Hemet.
Yes.
City of Lake Elsinore.
Aye.
City of Norco.
Yes.
City of Temecula.
Yes.
County of Riverside District 5.
Yes.
Chair, that would be 8 affirmative, unanimous.
Thank you, Jim. Next is item 5, cash flow projections, and Charlie Ramirez will present.
Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the committee. Charlie Ramirez, Chief Financial Officer. The agency currently holds a strong cash position, and that is expected to continue in the coming weeks. LCTOP receipts related to the 25-cent fare promotion have provided a cash flow boost. Further, the agency continues to make good use of federal COVID stimulus funding, and we continue to hold our operating expenses in check and below budget. As such, I do not anticipate any cash flow issues for this reporting period. Thank you, and that completes my presentation.
That's a great presentation. Are there any questions from committee members? Has the clerk received any requests to comment on this item?
No, Chair, I have not.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, item 5 is received and filed. Next is item 6, quarterly investment report, and Charlie Ramirez will present again.
Thank you, Chair. So the Local Agency Investment Fund, or LAIF, and the CalTrust Short-Term Fund, or Short-Term Fund, have been the agency's primary investment vehicles for several years. While LAIF is much larger and much more stable, the Short-Term Fund is smaller and a little bit more nimble and offers a little bit more of a risk-reward component. And by that, I mean there is more exposure for loss, but there's also more potential upside. Both investments conform with the agency investment policy, as well as the California Code of Regulations. Over the years, the short-term fund has performed well for the agency, which is why more funds were diverted there over the years. I can tell you in 2019 and 2020, for an example, the short-term fund netted the agency approximately $2.4 million in investment income, which at a time of historic lows in interest rates is quite a good performance. However, staff noticed that the short-term fund began to struggle a bit in 2021. In the first 3 quarters of that year, the investment earnings combined for about $50,000, with actually one of those quarters being a small loss. Surprisingly, in the 4th quarter of 2021, the short-term fund posted a significant loss for the agency, about $110,000. This concerned staff, which prompted discussions with CalTrust investment managers. Based on these discussions and the fact that the short-term fund had performed well over the years, staff opted not to do anything rash at that point, to show some patience and not make any moves at that time. However, staff did notify CalTrust that the agency could not continue to sustain losses at that rate. Accordingly, staff monitored the short-term fund's performance in January of this year, and unfortunately, by month end, another loss was posted. At that time, staff did notify CalTrust and transferred the majority of its short-term fund holdings, about $70 million, out of the short-term fund and into LAIF. Subsequently, after that, the remaining funds in the short-term fund were moved into a separate CalTrust fund called Fed Fund. The Fed Fund specializes in short-term, highly liquid instruments where the risk of a loss is not as significant as the short-term fund. Staff continued to monitor the short-term fund performance in February and March, even though the majority of our money was no longer in there, to get an understanding of what would have happened had we not made any moves. I can share with you that in February and March, losses very similar to January were posted, meaning that if the agency had not removed its funding from the short-term fund when it did, it likely would have suffered a loss about 3 times worse than is reported in the schedule attached to the staff report. Conversely, by increasing our investment in LAIF, we actually increased our investment earnings there by about $30,000 compared to the last quarter. So all told, when you take into account the loss that the further loss that we avoided in CalTrust by making the move and the investment income increase in LAIF, we actually saved the agency about $150,000 to $200,000 by making the moves when we did. Staff believes that the current mix of primarily LAIF with some CalTrust Fed Fund is a good investment combination and will result in more stable investment performance in the coming quarters. I can share with you that in the first month of the current quarter that will be reported to this committee later this summer, that both investments posted positive results for the agency. So we appear to be on the right track now. Thank you, and that completes my presentation.
Oh, thank you. I mean, staff is just proactive all the time, just sharp, always thinking for the good of RTA. Thank you. Are there any comments from board members?
Just a quick one. Thank you very much, Charlie, for that. And it goes back to the old thing. You guys are really on top of your jobs and looking out for taxpayer dollars and RTA dollars. And I really, really appreciate this report, because with the volatile market, there is the chance that you can lose a lot of money, and your proactive work on this is really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other committee members that have comments or questions?
Brigitte, Ray Santos, Beaumont.
Yes.
I just like to compliment Charlie. Charlie, that was really a good move. Monitoring the funds and moving right away on that direction. And just like Linda said, that you're so proactive on that. Really appreciate that. So it means you really care about the agency. I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Charlie. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else? Has the clerk received any request to comment on this item?
No, Chair, I have not.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, item 6 is received and filed. Next is item 7, quarterly natural gas procurement status report, and Charlie Ramirez will present again.
Thank you, Chair. So prior to 2013, the agency purchased its natural gas to fuel its directly operated fleet from the Southern California Gas Company, which you all know to be the natural gas utility provider for this area. Starting in 2013, in search of better cost options, the agency began to do business with a third-party natural gas provider known as GHI. This is a company that we still do business with to this day. In fact, we are in year 4 of a 5-year contract with them. Not only does GHI provide the natural gas commodity at a discount from the index Southern California Gas Company rate, they also administer the agency's RINs and LCFS program. RINs and LCFS, if you remember, are the federal and state programs, respectively, that provide marketable credits for the use of natural gas as an alternative fuel source. Attached to the staff report are 4 charts that depict various information that is tracked by the agency as part of its natural gas program. To summarize those results, chart 1 depicts the nearly $40,000 in cost savings the agency achieved by purchasing its natural gas from GHI as opposed to the gas company. Charts 2 and 3 combine to show the RINs and LCFS revenue earned for the quarter to be about $373,000. And chart 4, among other things, tracks the monthly commodity natural gas cost over the last 3 years. Of particular note, the price of natural gas did spike in the first quarter of this year. This is really being driven by the global market instability, part of which is being caused by the continuing turmoil in Europe. Staff is monitoring this very closely, and we have incorporated appropriate pricing into the fiscal year 2023 budget, which will be presented here in a few minutes. Thank you, and that completes my presentation.
Thank you. Does any committee members have comments or questions?
I have one comment.
Okay.
I'd just like to compliment the staff again for staying right on top of heavy situations such as this. And it's working to the benefit of RTA. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Art. Any other questions or comments? Has the clerk received any requests to comment on this item?
No, Chair, I have not.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, item 7 is received and filed. Next is item 8, request to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2022-2023, fiscal year 23 operating budget, capital budget, and fiscal year 23, fiscal year 25 short range transit plan, SRTP, and adopt the fiscal year 23 budgets and SRTP. And it's Charlie Ramirez.
All right. Thank you, Chair Moore. Let's see. So can everybody see those slides?
Yes.
All right, great. So thank you, committee members, for your attention. I am proud to present the proposed fiscal year 2023 operating and capital budget and the FY23 through 25 short range transit plan. As usual, I like to start the budget presentation with the agency mission, because really that's all a budget is. It's the financial resources that are required to carry out the agency's mission. In our case, that mission is to provide safe, reliable, and cost-effective transportation to our citizens. And really hanging on safe for a second, never has it taken on the meaning that it took on over these last couple of years. And as we move ourselves from some of the darker days of the pandemic, I can assure you that safety of our customers and our employees is always on the forefront of our mind. We understand that we do not have unlimited resources. We want to deploy service that is efficient and gets the most bang for our buck, if you will. Of course, we want to be fiscally responsible. We understand that we have a sacred trust with our taxpayers. We want to spend that money wisely and, of course, comply with all laws and regulations. And then really at the core of what we do, excellent customer service. This is what we are and what we're about. We pride ourselves on our customer service here at the agency. Jumping over to the service is what really drives the financial part of the budget. In terms of fixed route revenue service, which is the bulk of what we do, we're going to continue basically with the same level of service that we are seeing now in terms of total output, with some modifications. We will continue to offer certain select commuter link routes at peak. We are going to move forward with the suspension of certain routes and route segments in the Hemet-San Jacinto service area, which will be backfilled with a new Hemet-San Jacinto circulator route 44 and a microtransit pilot program. These last two bullets were approved by the board in January of 2021 as part of the service reduction recommendations made by Transportation Management and Design, or TMD. We understand that January 2021 feels like a lifetime ago. So these changes, all changes affecting the Hemet-San Jacinto area, will be brought back before the board, likely over this summer for the board's consideration. We are also going to move forward with increasing frequencies on our next tier of routes. You may remember that in FY22, the current year, we did increase frequencies on our top 5 performing routes. This is really moving to the next 4 or 5, which will put our top 10 fixed routes at about 80% of pre-COVID levels. So we're not quite there, but we are moving in the right direction. In terms of dial-a-ride service and demand, we will offer a coverage window similar to pre-COVID, which is essentially what we've done all throughout the pandemic. We want to make sure that we are there for our senior and customers with disabilities. We will continue the DAR Plus program, which extends the criteria to get picked up by DAR dial-a-ride. This is really necessary for lifeline services, things like picking up meals, going to healthcare appointments, things of that nature. And we do anticipate that as we move further away from the pandemic, that more of our dial-a-ride customers will come back to us. In terms of ridership projections, just a reminder, we are seeing levels that are still significantly lower than pre-pandemic levels, but we do believe there's some cause for optimism. The effects of the pandemic are indeed waning. Most schools and businesses are pretty much fully open. Recent fare promotions have significantly boosted ridership, which is outstanding, and really why year to date we are up 27% from last year. That's a big number. We're a little bit more tempered in our expectations for next year. We do expect to see modest 5% growth. We do expect there to be some continued hiccups related to the pandemic, but we do see steady growth, so that's good news. Some exciting and new things going on at RTA. We do plan to have some executive leadership training next year. Obviously, we have a new leader here at RTA. We really want to build some cohesion under that new leadership and create a singular vision. Part of that will include a review of our core values. So currently our core values are safety, customer service, image, and efficiency. Certainly outstanding core values, but we really want to see if we can expand them given the new world and possibly make an inclusion for diversity in those core values. On that note, we do want to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, DEI. This is really a committee about moving the agency forward with those terms, diversity, equity, inclusion, and really incorporating help from the community to help drive that home. We are currently undertaking an administrative personnel compensation and classification study. It will conclude in FY23. It's really examining our agency positions to make sure they're properly classified with a competitive compensation. The last time that we embarked on such a study was 2013, so it's been a while. And lastly, we are creating an RTA and ATU mentorship program, something called RAMP 22 for the year. This is really aimed at helping union employees in all facets, not just here at work, but also in life considerations as well. So some exciting and new things coming up in this next year. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes, the operating budget in terms of dollars. The operating budget is coming in at $93.2 million. That's a 9%, $7.6 million increase. It's a big jump. For those of you that are fans of the Consumer Price Index, I can tell you that the greater Riverside area is reporting a 10%, that's right, 10% increase over the last 12 months. So what's in it? We are actually seeing decreased wages and benefits due to a reduction in staff levels that we'll talk about here in a minute. Service, no, those will be flat. We're only taking on professional services that are absolutely necessary, so no real growth there. We are seeing an increase heavily in fuel, as we talked about a minute ago. Inventory parts, prices have gone up in addition to the bus just simply aging and needing newer parts. As you know, we will get some new buses in here over the next couple of years, so that will help on that front. Increased insurance expenses, public transit, state of California continue to be very tough markets in this aspect. Really, the largest singular item that we are seeing is actually in purchase transportation. This is mostly being driven by the board-approved new dial-a-ride contract with First Transit. It really reflects price increases of what we're seeing across the board, and in particular as it relates to this service. Looking at it in terms of major cost elements, so the salaries and benefits, that makes up about half of what we do, which makes sense. We are a service organization. Purchase transportation, that's an extension of service. That's our contracted service. That takes up about 30%. Services and supplies, about 5-6% respectively apiece. Other expenses, 11%. That includes the insurance we talked about, advertising, promotion, hardware, software, things of that nature. Comparing that year over year, as mentioned, you can see salaries and benefits down about $1 million. Purchase transportation, that's that really big jump we talked about. Services, flat. Materials and supplies, about a $1.5 million increase. Fuel and parts really driving that. Other expenses, as mentioned, the biggest movement is really the insurance program. So a $7.5 million increase. Interestingly enough, if you removed our contracted service and took out the $6.2 million, really the budget for directly operated service is only about $1.4 million or so. And that would be a 2% increase. So not bad indeed. Looking at the major functions, operations comprises 60% of what we do. That is obviously coach operators, stops and zones, operations supervision, purchase transportation. Maintenance is 16%. This is our mechanics, servicers, fuel, lubrication, parts, things of that nature. And administration is about a quarter of what we do. That is support functions, things like finance, human resources, purchasing, all that good stuff. Comparing that year over year, you can see operations, big jump. That includes that purchase transportation number. Maintenance, about $1.5 million, fuel and parts. And then administration, as we talked about, really being driven by insurance. Jumping over and looking at the proposed staffing for this next year ahead. So FY22, the budgeted staffing was 472 positions. We did have some additions. We do want to add 2 groundskeepers to maintain the increase in bus stops that we have out there in our network. I can tell you for as long as I've been here, which has been many years, we have not added any groundskeepers in this respect, and we have continued to offer new bus stops. So we really want to make sure that we can keep up with demand and maintain the high level of image and safety that we have and keep those bus stops clean out there. We are going to hire, or we have hired an HR specialist. We'll talk about that in a second. The hiring is starting to ramp up at the agency, so we want to make sure that we can keep up with that. An HR generalist, in addition to the increase in hiring, all of the increased compliance that goes along with things these days, we needed another position to keep up with that. That's a subtotal of 4 additions. So the HR specialist and the HR generalist, you may remember these 2 positions were actually already approved by the board in December of 2021 as part of an amendment to the FY22 budget process. However, I did want to present them here for transparency and comparison purposes. In terms of staffing reductions, we are seeing a reduction of 25 coach operators. That is not that we are going to lay off 25 operators. That is actually 25 operators that are already gone due to natural attrition. We did have an excess of staffing related to COVID-19, and that is now gone. So we are back to being lean. The duties of the financial administrator position have been absorbed within finance, so we will reduce that position. Customer information clerk, was a reduction of 2 due to a little bit of reorganization there. Servicers, reducing by 8. Now, you may remember last year we had a temporary addition of 8 servicers, which was really underutilized coach operators that were moved over into the maintenance arena. And it really had more to do with our 1 bus, 1 operator, meaning that every time an operator went out in the field with a bus, they came back as opposed to making the switch out in the field. They brought that bus back so that we could clean and sanitize it basically on the spot. So we are not running that program anymore. Those 8 servicers or coach operators were moved back to operations, but rest assured, we are continuing to sanitize and maintain our buses to the utmost standards. So that's 36 reductions. So that's a net reduction of 32 positions. So when you start off with 472, we are proposing an FY23 budgeted staffing of about 440 positions. In terms of staffing modifications, we want to upgrade the systems administrator to an information technology manager. As you just saw, we have 440 positions slated for FY23. Our IT department is composed of about 3 individuals. So we really need to get our chief technology officer help in terms of management duties, weekend coverage, things like that. So this will really help with that. The accounts payable clerk, we want to upgrade that position to an accounts payable specialist. Over the years, we've had trouble recruiting for the accounts payable clerk. That role has really expanded in what we expect of it. So to keep up with market expectations, we do want to upgrade that position. So that's only a total of two modifications to current existing staff levels. In terms of fare box recovery ratio, as you may know, the agency must meet or exceed a fare box target to remain eligible for state funding. Essentially, what that means is we have to earn a certain amount of fare box revenue and divide that by operating expense. Assembly Bill 149, AB 149 was something that was passed last summer. It allows cost exclusions in that calculation for dial-a-ride costs, microtransit, new and altered routes, and government mandates. It also allows for free and discounted fares to be upvalued to full fare. And it also allows for the inclusion of all non-state grant revenue. Further, for those that need it, and we do not plan to need it, it does extend any fare box penalty exemption through FY23. So our projected target for FY23 is 17.34%. And incorporating the provisions of AB 149, we do expect to have a fare box ratio of 85%. So we do plan to blow that target out of the water, and we will comply with our fare box requirements in FY23. We also do plan on complying in FY22, the current year. So as it turns out, FY21 will be the only year in many years that we did not comply with the fare box target. And of course, that was related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Jumping over to the capital budget, that's coming in at about $16 million. That's a reduction of about $5 million from last year. The biggest item, about half of that, is the design and construction of hydrogen fueling stations in Riverside and Hemet. You may remember this reflects a very large competitive federal award that actually was already awarded to the agency, so a big win for us. This is also something that was called out as a precursor to buying vehicles in our board-approved zero-emission bus rollout plan. So we do plan to start the architectural and design phase in calendar 2023, with construction slated to begin in 2024. We also reprogrammed some funds from a central operations and maintenance facility, which because of the pandemic is no longer deemed crucial to short-term goals of the agency, and bus replacements are. So this money was moved over into bus replacements. We will continue with transit improvements out on the street at our bus stops to make sure we can keep those in good shape. As always, we put money aside for maintenance, including tires, capital parts, which are major components that go on our bus, and SB1 SGR, which is state of good repair funding, which really goes towards facilities and infrastructure maintenance. So the good news is, with those costs, our FY23 budgets are fully funded on the operating and capital side, and there will be a test on all of this right here later on. So that leaves us with your recommendation here today, which is to approve and recommend this item to the full board of directors for their consideration as follows. Hold a public hearing on the FY23 operating budget, FY23 capital budget, and the FY23 through FY25 SRTP. Adopt the FY23 budgets and the FY23 through FY25 SRTP. Approve the agency FY23 salary and wage schedule, and to authorize staff to amend all necessary personnel and contractual documents affected by the adopted budget as appropriate and in accordance with agency procurement and human resources policies. Thank you, and that completes my presentation.
Great job, Charlie.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions or comments? That was a great presentation. Zach.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was the Charlie show today.
What?
So I certainly appreciate that presentation, and you definitely make, you and the balance of the team definitely make our jobs here at RTA very easy. So I appreciate that. I've got my Scantron and my number 2 ready. So whenever you're ready, Charlie.
Excellent.
Anyone else have any questions? Oh, Linda Krupa.
Thank you. Charlie, great presentation, great report. I think I missed it. The comp and class study that is being done, that the last time it was done back in 2013, will we have the results of that prior to approval of this budget, or is that just going to be as a separate report for us?
Great question, Director Krupa. So the compensation and classification study is underway now, and it will definitely be brought back to the board, but it is actually not going to be part of the FY23 budget in terms of the compensation results. Those results will likely be incorporated into an FY24 budget if there are changes. So we plan to complete that study. There is budgeted dollars for that study in the FY23 budget, but in terms of salary changes, those would not be presented likely in the budget until FY24.
Thank you. Appreciate that information.
Richard?
Okay, Ray. Yes, Ray.
There you go. Hey, Charlie, this is a good budget. I mean, review it and everything in here. And congratulations again. I mean, I like the zero balance budget. It means a really well balanced budget. Good job. Good job. Now, I have a quick questions on the illustrations, and especially on the salary on the security. We did reduce it, to almost 500, over 500,000, and there was no indication that how many security personnel that we get rid or we reduce.
Yeah, great question, Director Santos. So keep in mind that our security services are actually contracted with an outside firm. We do not have internal security positions. Really, the security was reduced in relation to the pandemic. We had a lot of security out at our facilities because we weren't seeing as much service run through those facilities, but also because we weren't able to utilize certain public restrooms. We did have porta potties for our operators out in the field, and we used security guards to also guard those locations. So with us moving further away from some of the COVID items, that is why security services was reduced so much in this budget.
Okay, very good. So that's outside service.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Next is the CNG fuel. On that is, we reduce. I mean, which is very good. I mean, it means there's other fuel, budget, maybe the, electric or something, but it shows in there, though there was a reductions in there. Is there any other reasons in that?
Your
usage?
A reduction in natural gas?
Yes, CNG.
There shouldn't have been. Let me pull up that.
No reduction, it's an increase.
Yeah. So yeah, that increase is directly tied to the presentation that I just gave earlier, which is a spike in the natural gas prices that we are seeing.
There you go.
I'm sure you all are familiar with what's going on in the gas industry.
Yes.
The natural gas very closely tied to what happens there. So those prices have really skyrocketed, and that's what called for the increase in the FY23 budget.
Very good, because it's a good increase on the increase in there. Thank you. Good job. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ray.
Chair,
Yes, Art.
just one question. This may be, I know it's part of the budget, but would you comment on where we stand with the student pass programs for the universities? And are they continuing at the same level, or has there been change there?
Are you talking, Director Welch, are you talking about the actual ridership levels or the agreements with the universities to allow students to?
Yes, yes.
The second, yeah.
Yes.
So I know we are working on finalizing our agreements with the university. I believe the current program for them to ride free as part of the LCTOP program, I think ends in July. But we are working with the universities to continue the prior program that we had with all of the universities, which is the UPass and GoPass program, that will continue to allow university students to ride to the student either free or as a very small fee as part of their registration fees.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Has the clerk received any requests to comment on this item?
No, Chair, I have not.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to make a comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Move, Beaumont.
Beaumont? Do I have a
Second. Oh,
Second, Canyon Lake. I have a motion from Beaumont and a second from Canyon Lake. Will the clerk please take roll call?
City of Wildomar,
Yes.
City of Beaumont,
Aye.
City of Calamasa, City of Canyon Lake,
Aye.
City of Hemet,
Yes.
City of Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
City of Norco,
Yes.
City of Temecula,
Yes.
County of Riverside District 5.
yes.
Chair, that is 8 affirmative, unanimous.
Great, thank you. Next is item 9, board member comments. Does anyone have any comments? Well, I just want to say thank you to Brad. He came out. We had our Wildomar Health Fair last Saturday, and Brad came out there to visit and see the trolley, the bus. Not trolley, we actually had the bus there. So if you guys, anyone does want a bus or trolley at your event, please get your request in for the summer. I think it really adds something to the event and promotes public transportation. Next is item number 10, announcements. Kristen, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Chair Moore. Just one really quick announcement. We have finally hit a new milestone for the weekend. On Saturday, April 30th, we had 10,458 rides. First time we've broken 10,000 rides on a Saturday since the pandemic, so we're excited about that. Saturday and Sunday are actually recovering much more quickly than weekdays. It looks like we're down somewhere between 28 and 19% on average on the weekends over pre-COVID levels, which is good. And then I did hear that nationally, the weekday ridership is still down about 45%, which is exactly where we're at. We're at like 44.7. So we're trending along with the national average and starting to go in the right direction. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, that's great news. Okay. Okay, next is item 11. The next meeting of the Board Budget and Finance Committee will be held on Wednesday, June 1st, 2020 at 2 p.m. And the May 4th, 2022 Board Budget and Finance Committee meeting is adjourned at 2:37 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Hey,
Good.
Do it.
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye.